After failing to escape twice in a row and being caught again, Papillon fell into complete despair. What awaited him was 5 long years of solitary confinement. By this time, Papillon's hair had turned completely white. The warden personally came to visit him, because anyone who could survive 5 years in solitary was undoubtedly made of steel. Soon after, he was escorted to Devil's Island. The island was surrounded on all sides by steep cliffs, and below the cliffs lay sharp rocks and roaring waves. There were no boats, no guards, and no freedom or hope. Here, Papillon met his old friend Degas. It turned out that Degas had been sent directly to Devil's Island 5 years earlier. 5 years had passed, and he had long grown accustomed to life there, passing the days with painting. Papillon, however, often sat at the edge of the cliff, lost in thought, watching the sun set and the tides rise and fall. Until one day, he suddenly woke Degas from his sleep, excitedly sharing a new escape plan. When waves crash against the cliffs, they create a counterforce, and if you time the jump just right, you won't be smashed against the rocks. They stuffed everything that could float into large bags, turning them into makeshift flotation devices. Standing at the shore, gazing at the endless sea and the distant horizon, feeling the salty wind on his face, Degas felt a sense of release. He wanted to stay on the island. Papillon was first shocked, then suddenly understood. Over these 5 years, Devil's Island had completely drained Degas' will. Papillon, however, was different. He had endured 7 years of torture in prison, and what kept him alive was his longing for freedom. For Degas, Devil's Island had become a different kind of freedom they had been desperately searching for. The two men shook hands tightly to say goodbye, grateful for 7 years of shared struggles. Then, without hesitation, Papillon leaped off the cliff, his fate unknown. Degas stood silently on the shore for a long time, yet he never saw Papillon's form. But Papillon succeeded. It was as if he could hear their shared cry, and carrying both of their freedoms, he raced toward the horizon. Many years later, an old man wrote down his 7-year legendary escape story and submitted it to a publisher in Paris. The editor could hardly believe that such events had actually happened. But this was not a story about one man alone. It was the story of Papillon and Degas, and of countless others trapped in similar fates. When the book was published, it caused a sensation, even drawing the attention of France's Minister of Justice, who re-examined the old case. More than 20 years later, the wrongful convictions were finally overturned. Papillon was now over 50, but he had finally proven his innocence. The minister personally signed a pardon, allowing him to return to his homeland. The true terror of Devil's Island was not that escape was impossible, but that it could erode a person's will to survive. Yet what it could never destroy was a heart engraved with hope and the love of freedom.